But on Raw Monday night, we had two big matches confirmed for SummerSlam. We already had one match, the only match confirmed heading into Monday was Io Sky challenging Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. You can now add Oba Femi against Brock Lesnar to the list. Inside Hell in a Cell. And how we arrived at this was Oba was about to make his choice on which championship to challenge for at SummerSlam by virtue of him winning King of the Ring this year. When he was interrupted by the returning Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. Brock said, "Everybody knows I don't watch the shows." Lucky guy. But Paul's been filling him in on what's been going on, including Oba calling him a coward and a bitch and questioning his manhood. Talk shit, get hit. And he kicked Oba in the dick before dropping him with an F5. Oba gets up. He's holding his junk. He's not very happy. You say I call you names behind your back. Well, now you're in front of me and you're still a bitch. Let's settle this once and for all at SummerSlam. Brock accepts, but under one condition, that they do it inside Hell in a Cell. It's a big stipulation. Big stipulation for a big blow-off match. I like it. First Hell in a Cell match since Punk and McIntyre 2 years ago, and that one was 5 stars all the way. Brock's going to have to go more than 6 minutes if they're doing it inside the cell. The time it takes them to lower the cage should not be longer than the actual match itself. Hopefully they give this some more time. And it had to happen there, being at SummerSlam, because there was no other obvious opponent for Brock on that show. I mean, we could joke about how, boy, Oba's an idiot. You had Saturday night's main event coming up in Madison Square Garden. Why did he throw SummerSlam out there knowing he's got a guaranteed title match on that show? That is very true. You know, it does feel like a bigger match for a SummerSlam and not for a Saturday night's main event, which, by the way, we only have 2 matches announced so far. What an ass card that is for Madison Square Garden. I mean, we still have a couple of weeks left. I would hope they got a couple of bigger matches, like really bigger matches planned for that show, because if not, as popular as Danhausen is going to be in Madison Square Garden that night, Danhausen against J.D. McDonough, probably with Jalen Brunson in Danhausen's corner would be my guess. And Paige and Brie Bella defending the tag team titles against Fatal Influence. That ain't going to cut it. I hope they have some good shit planned for that show, because that card is not good. And boy, it could really use a match like Brock Lesnar against Oba Femi. It's a legendary historic venue at Madison Square Garden, so they can make it into a big show. And it's kind of like, you got to get past me if you want that title match at SummerSlam, right? You could have done that. You could have done something like that, but they were not going to leave Brock Lesnar off the SummerSlam card, especially in Minneapolis. He was always going to be on that show. If he's going to wrestle on that show, there is nobody else that really makes sense for him to wrestle, if not Oba Femi. Now, you could try to shoehorn Gunther in there because Gunther has just fallen off, right? He had all the attention and focus on him for so long, and now he's been relegated to basically just a background player now, coming out of that title match at Night of Champions. He'll be wrestling Nick Aldis, most likely, the GM, at SummerSlam, which is a fine little attraction for the card. But boy, again, it's a big drop-off from what Gunther was doing before. You could have, I suppose, on a few weeks' notice, a few weeks' build, put together a match with Brock and Gunther. If maybe coming out of the Oba thing, they wanted to push Brock as more of a babyface. You could have done that. There legitimately is nobody else, though, that I could think of that you could put Brock with on short notice for SummerSlam. So I get why they would want to do the match with Oba on that show. And here's the other thing about Brock Lesnar and SummerSlam. He's Mr. SummerSlam. You know, we hear about Mr. WrestleMania. I'll get questions about this every now and then. Who's Mr. WrestleMania, Mr. Royal Rumble, Mr. this, Mr. that? And so I've answered those questions before. Who's Mr. SummerSlam? You want to know who Mr. SummerSlam is? I mean, you might have a couple of different options that you could go with, but honestly, Brock Lesnar is Mr. SummerSlam. If you look at the body of work he's put together on that show, this is his show. That last man standing match, that last match he had with Roman Reigns was probably their best ever singles match. Funny enough, was the last one they had. The Fatal 4-Way in 2017 that Brock was part of with Roman and Joe and I think Strowman, that was great. The match with Undertaker in 2015. The squash of John Cena. The match with Punk in 2013. That is his best SummerSlam match. That's one of the best matches in SummerSlam history. Kurt Angle in 2003. The Rock in 2002. There's just something about SummerSlam that brings the best out of Brock Lesnar. And this year, the show, again, it's in Minneapolis. I'm sure the two of them are going to go inside that cell and they're going to kill it. So then the question is, why have Oba win King of the Ring when the winner is supposed to get a championship match at SummerSlam? Dave Meltzer says it was always the plan for Oba to win King of the Ring, but then forego his title match at SummerSlam because the idea is to hold off on doing Oba against Roman to make it a really big deal. I would guess for Saudi Mania next year. If they didn't want Omen, I legitimately almost said Omen and Roba. If they didn't want Roman and Oba, that's quite the switcheroo there, to touch yet, I understand that. Like, that's understandable if you want to hold off on that. But to give him the crown without giving him what was promised by winning the crown is fucking lazy. And it just makes the whole thing feel so pointless. You know, I had assumed that Oba was just delaying his title match to a later date. It's like he told Adam Pearce on Monday, the title will always be there. I've got to settle this with Brock now, but the title will always be there. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that means he's going to just have his championship match at WrestlePalooza, or he's going to have his championship match at WrestleMania or something, right, at a later date. But evidently, I don't know what's going on, but evidently on WWE's own official Raw Recap podcast, this is their podcast with Sam Roberts and Megan Morant. They talked about it like Oba willingly discarded his title shot because the title shot was for SummerSlam. I assume this is their logic, and so he chose to wrestle Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, so therefore he gets no guaranteed title shot. Because this isn't Money in the fucking Bank where you can just pick the time and place to cash in. So until WWE clarifies this, I have to assume the title shot is gone. I mean, he's honestly, he should win the Royal Rumble anyway. The Rumble means more than King of the Ring does. He can just win the Rumble and choose Roman and just forget about all of this. I wouldn't be surprised if this title shot is discarded and they just forget about it. But the fact that this was the plan from the start, if we are to believe that this was the plan from the start, this is what they intended to do, and this was not some sort of late decision or pivot or anything like that, then he didn't need to be in the tournament to begin with. It's all very stupid, very, very dumb. But you want to know why they did it. There is a method to the madness here, I think, in their view. Here's why they did it, okay, in my opinion. And we don't have to like it. We don't have to think it makes any sense. But for the people asking, well, why not just have Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker go to the finals and do their match there? It would have made so much sense, right? Since Rollins is getting a title match with Roman Reigns anyway. And just leave Oba out of the tournament or have Brock interfere and screw him in the opening round, which was a fatal four-way, by the way. So you can actually beat Oba without him taking a pinfall loss. Why not just do it that way? Here's why. It's very simple. Besides the obvious, which is that they wanted Oba to have King of the Ring on his resume, right? He's the ruler, and now he can call himself the king. Ask yourself, why was Jey Uso outside of the obvious reason, why was Jey Uso in the finals of the King of the Ring? Because they wanted to have him on that Night of Champions show. They wanted the entrance. They wanted the fans to be able to yeet with him on his way down to the ring. That's the real attraction of Jey Uso. Because it's definitely not when the bell rings. When the bell rings, it's as basic as it gets. It's the music, it's the entrance, it's the yeeting, it's the crowd participation. It's fun for the people who are in that building. They wanted him on that show, so they sent him to the finals. Why was Oba Femi in the King of the Ring? Because if he wasn't, or Brock bounced him out of the first round, what does he do at Night of Champions? If Brock is not wrestling at Night of Champions, then what does Oba Femi do? He probably is not on the show. Because he's busy getting ready to kill Brock Lesnar for killing his chances of winning King of the Ring. It doesn't make sense for him to wrestle somebody else in the meantime. right? Brock clearly was not committed to this date in Saudi, so let's assume he's not working the show, or they want to save that match for SummerSlam. Then what does he do? He's not on Night of Champions. They wanted him on that show too. They wanted Oba Femi on that show. They wanted him to strut down to the ring. He was a big attraction on that show. So if Oba's not in the tournament, he's not on the show. This was their way of making sure he had something to do in Riyadh. By keeping Rollins and Breakker separate in a cage match, it gave them an extra match to do on the show since ESPN wanted 6 instead of 5. So they separated them out. I'm not saying any of this makes it right or that it isn't silly when there was an easier way to go about doing this. I'm just telling you why these decisions were made, why they do things the way they do them.